Hello. In this video we're looking at Boroditsky, 2001, Does Language Shape Thought? Mandarin and English Speakers' Conceptions of Time. This is one of the studies in the Language, Thought and Communications topic in the Edexcel GCSE 9-1 Psychology course. The research done by Boroditsky in 2001 looked at the interesting idea that the language we use might influence how we think. In particular, she was curious about how English and Mandarin speakers think about time. These two languages, Mandarin and English, use different ways to describe time. English often talks about time like it's laid out on a line from left to right, with past events on one side and future events on the other, whereas Mandarin tends to talk about time vertically, like it's going up and down. Okay, let's break down the aims of the study then. The main thing that Boroditsky wanted to find out was whether the way we use language can actually shape the way we think, particularly when it comes to the concept of time. She was curious to see if when English speakers are given a little nudge to think about time in a left-right way, like reading a sentence, whether they would be quicker to answer questions about time. And for Mandarin speakers, who sometimes think of time as moving vertically, she wanted to know if nudging them to think about time in an up and down way would make them answer time questions faster or slower. Basically, the study was trying to see if our language can kind of steer our thinking, especially about when things happened in the past or will happen in the future. So let's walk through the steps of the procedure in the study. Firstly, the participants. Boroditsky got together a group of 46 students from Stanford University. 26 of them were native English speakers and 20 were native Mandarin speakers who could also speak English. What did they do? Well, the study used priming to get the participants ready to think in a certain way. Priming is like a warm-up exercise for your brain to get it thinking about things in a specific direction. Let's see how this priming was done. They showed the participants pictures that were arranged in two different ways. One picture had a black worm in front of a white worm, laid out horizontally from left to right. Another picture had a black ball above a white ball from top to bottom. So what was the point? Well, these pictures were supposed to make the participants think either in a line, left to right, horizontally, or in a stack, up and down, vertically. After showing the pictures, they asked the participants if certain statements about time, like March comes before April, were true or false. They were curious to see if the priming would make them answer these time questions faster or slower. The researchers measured how fast the participants said true or false to the time questions after being primed, and they counted the time in milliseconds. The native English speakers were quicker to say true or false to the time questions after they saw the horizontal pictures than the vertical ones. It seems like the left to right layout made them quicker to think about time. Generally speaking, for the Mandarin speakers, the direction of the pictures didn't really change how quickly they answered the time questions. Whether the pictures were horizontal or vertical, they took about the same time. But when it came to certain specific time-related words like earlier or later, Mandarin speakers actually answered faster after seeing the vertical pictures compared with the horizontal ones. And this suggests that their thoughts about time were influenced by an up and down layout. So to sum it up, the English speakers were speedy with the horizontal cues, and the Mandarin speakers had a special quickness with vertical cues when the questions were directly related to a certain aspect of time. Now to the strengths and weaknesses of the study. The study's experimental design is a significant strength. By randomizing the order of the slide presentation and controlling variables that could affect the outcomes, the study minimized external factors, that's extraneous variables, that could skew the results. And this rigorous control strengthens the reliability of the conclusions. Since the patterns observed were consistent across all 3 experiments in the study, there were 3, have a look at your textbook to see the others, this adds credibility to the findings. It's a strong indication that the way language talks about time really does influence how we think about time. What about the weaknesses? One might be the narrow focus of the study. It focused solely on the concept of time, not taking into account other cognitive concepts, which could lead to a reductionist understanding. This means that while the findings are relevant to time, they may not apply to how language affects thought in general. And then there's generalizability. The use of Stanford University students as participants raises concerns about the ability to generalize the findings. There could be a potential bias due to the homogeneity of the group, which may not represent the global population. Also, concerning the ecological validity of the Boroditsky study, and that's the real-life application. In real-world situations, people don't usually get primed explicitly before answering questions about time or other concepts, and therefore the experimental conditions might not reflect everyday thinking. So, to sum it up, Boroditsky's study is an interesting one. Certainly it was scientifically solid with good controls, which lends credibility to the idea that language can have a bearing on thinking. But the experiments only focused on time. It'd be interesting to see if other experiments could be set up to see whether language influences other aspects of thought. I'm sure there have been. This video tutorial has been a general overview of the Boroditsky study. For more detail, including the data, please consult your textbook. Thank you for watching.